think would be better done, and what you think is are sorely needed?
To get to that one unicorn, you need a lot. So it's a numbers game. And because the ecosystem is still relatively young, I wish there was more adventure capital. There's always venture capital. And as I said, we started 7 years ago, and as early as then, the VCs keep coming, and they're always watching what's happening in the Philippines. So I don't doubt the VCs are going to come in and write more checks. But then there's a need for the adventure capital, those who are willing to just go with the risk and look at investing in people more than investing in the startup.
Okay, thanks for that. So more of adventure spirit, but the venture capital access.
Yeah, there's the adventure capital maybe from philanthropists, primarily from the government. Yeah, and then to a certain extent to corporates also who use it as their CSR. So like Idea Space is greatly supported by corporates, and it is viewed on as a CSR, corporate social responsibility, to nurture to do capacity development. It's really help getting them, even if they fail, invest in them some more, because we shouldn't throw them away. In fact, some of the founders who have failed end up getting jobs in the corporates that are funding Idea Space. I get calls from company presidents. Let me know when one of the founders failed. Because I need a guy like that who thinks like that, who's entrepreneurial, who I can throw into a new business, and I know he can survive. Because as a startup, they carry the whole world, and they know how to network and start from zero. They know how to raise capital even without no cash at all, but they're able to get human capital and different kinds of capital to even just get the prototype going. So none of them is thrown away.
So skill sets, talent, I think these are the sort of quick sum-ups. Okay, great. So now I think we've seen a lot of sharks in action in the show on Shark Tank on TechStorm. So I think for the entrepreneurs who are in the Philippines, how would you think they can take a bite of the billion-dollar sort of capital access here in Southeast Asia? I think our game starts from my left, which the hot topic. I think let's move the mic over there.
Well, I think innovation hubs like Kubo and accelerators like Idea Space, they're really important because these didn't exist years ago, but there's so many resources that are available now to young startup founders, and they have to take advantage of it. I mean, Kubo is a free space, free Wi-Fi, free office space, and it's open to everybody. You've got beer and pizza nights, but the whole idea is, and I forgot the question now.
Is how can entrepreneurs in Philippines take a bite of the billion-dollar capital access?
One is don't be afraid to fail. I think that's important. And it's a counter-cultural in a sense, because sometimes over here, your parents always tell you to stick with the job, don't try anything risk-averse. But it's okay to fail, as we saw in the segment over there. He came back years later and became successful. So don't ever give up, and don't be afraid to change your idea or to pivot in case, because it's never always perfect at the start. But if you keep trying, and if you're not afraid to make a change, either in your team or your idea, you're gonna succeed.
Okay, I think those are great advice. And maybe moving to Diane first. Yeah.
Two words: risk and market. So my challenge all the time with entrepreneurs is that they complain they don't get funding, and if they don't get access to that funding, it's because the investor felt that his money was too risky with him. So understanding the risk, really, even the risk of yourself, not being blind. So knowing all the risks and how to mitigate each of the risks, and why you'll need money to bring down the risk, all the stuff, risk. And then two is the market. So a challenge I'd like to always pose for Filipino entrepreneurs is look outside of your market. Are you just looking at, because we have a tendency to be insular. It's, Philippines alone, the market's so big. We want them to keep looking and learning how to keep assessing the other markets out there. So even if we encounter a lot of entrepreneurs who are working in their own city or their own island, and so we ask them, so what's next? Oh, the other island, and then what? Then what? And what? So for them, no, I can't think of just the next island first. Let me do that first. But they need to exercise their mind and look at other markets so that becomes exciting for the investor, so that they can paint the picture for the investor, and they also have it in their plan. Investor knows, okay, I like this guy because I know my money is going to go 5x or 10x.
I think those are all good points. Okay, I think let's just do a quick, maybe a sum up. And now that Willie is holding the mic, I'll let Willie have a go. My question is, of the different investor sharks that we have on Shark Tank, tell us which one is your favorite and tell us why you picked that.
I'm a tech guy. And Mark Cuban is a tech guy as well, and he likes to think out of the box. And I tend not to like to do things the traditional way because everybody sees the same thing all over. So being a bit different, but being bold, but having that sharp acumen to figure out as you're venturing if that works or if that doesn't work, then learn to fail fast and fail cheap.
Okay, good point. And Butch, you want to jump at your favorite shark?
Well, I was going to say Mark Cuban, but
It's okay.
no, but I think let me shift to Kevin O'Leary, the bald guy, because he's tough. He's very tough, and he's not afraid to tell the people, you're full of this or you're full of that, and you need somebody on that show who's like a Simon Cowell, who's to make it exciting, and that's his role. I mean, the rest of them can be nice, but he's the type of guy who'll tell you, please go home.
And Diane, your pick?
I really don't have a favorite because it's true. All of them are real. All of it really happens in the investment committee sessions I've been to. Each of them have a persona. Maybe if there's a bias, of course, it's a female. Because whether the investor is male or female, it's the same. But it's just nice to get that representation on the panel.
Okay, good pick. I will share a little bit on what is my pick, and I'm going to go for what I call the dark horse. So in the show itself, we have a whole panel of at least 5 sharks, plus a handful of what we call guest investors, obviously because they then become the guest judges on the show. You noticed in the show earlier, we have Laurie Grenier. She calls herself the queen of QVC. Now, if you look at the numbers behind that, say Laurie is actually ranked the lowest in terms of her net wealth. So she's sitting at the bottom of the list at $50 million in terms of net wealth. Mark Cuban, that's Willie's favorite, and I think Butch's favorite. Yeah, so he's right on top. He tops the list at $2.5 billion in terms of net wealth. But guess what? There's a catch there. So Laurie made the most money out of the show. Not from hosting the show, but from investing in the show. So Laurie invested in one of the companies. She put in $150,000 in USD, obviously, and she made about $8 million out of that. So our gal actually got 52 times multiple of that 52 times multiple, not 5.2 times multiple. And for you who want to know which company that is, I'm not telling you, you have to watch the show.
I know.
Okay, starting on the 15th of July, and it's on prime time on Sky Cable, channel 212, at 9 p.m. So with this, I'm going to wrap up the panel. And before we do that, I'm going to open the floor to maybe 2 questions. We don't have a lot of time. Maybe 2 questions. Do we have any questions?
Filipinos are not supposed to be shy.
Any question? I hereby volunteer VAD.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry, I'm also
You can
videotaping.
tell us your name first, where you're from.
Hi, my name is Vida. I'm a virtual assistant. So I'm a solopreneur actually. I host, I'm one of the hosts of the VAD trip show. It's for virtual assistants all over the Philippines. It's only live stream, so we have a very, very small audience. But Shark Tank is actually one of my favorite shows. So, as a shark, I'm always interested in what I tend to see them as the sharks as they have their concentrations, they have their what do you call this specializations, and they have their favorites. So in terms of industry, what do you think you would be most attracted to?
Well, Vida, actually, if you would pitch your company, virtual assistants, and that show that you have, I mean, that has a decent chance to get an investment because outsourcing.
Ooh. I better think some ideas.
I'm a little familiar with the outsourcing area, and there's a big market overseas for virtual assistants.
Yes.
It's not as expensive to have somebody here in the Philippines.
Yes.
And Filipinos and Filipinas are much better at it than a lot of the world. So for somebody over there, you can get somebody like Mark Cuban or Kevin O'Leary, and you can pitch them on this whole idea of having virtual assistants here in the Philippines. The costs are lower, people are nicer, and the technology is there. Filipinas are prettier. And,
Actually, I already have a website, but I'm still fixing it. I won't be.
but you should pitch it. And the more people that watch that show, because there are many people here who want to become virtual assistants, not just women but men, and there's a huge market over there. So I would try.
Thank you.
So you wanted me to comment if the virtual assistant.
No. What type of industries do you think you would be most attracted to?
Most attracted to, for me, it's enabling. Personally, it's enabling the SMEs and making their business grow and make them think outside of their small market. So there's a lot of small micro entrepreneurs across the Philippines. So someone selling peanuts, and I believe strongly on economic diversity. So if we just selling peanuts in one town and peanuts again the other town and everybody's growing peanuts, then there's just a peanut business all over. The Philippines would just be known for that. But I get inspiration. Like if you go to Thailand, you look for a rice cracker in one store and the next store has a different type of rice cracker. So there's so much diversity with just one product. So for me, I'm excited with whoever works with getting those micro entrepreneurs to sell to the rest, to outside their town and into the rest of the world.
And maybe second question. Please tell us your name and where you're from organization.
My name is Pap. I'm a headhunter. In fact, I'm so used to hiring for startups. I just want to ask, actually, this is based on my observation. So I've seen so many startups fizzle out in the Philippines. In fact, I'm a big fan of Shark Tank. I've been watching it since 2013. My question is it right that we're copying the model of the US, of China? Because basically all the big startups are there, right?
Yeah.
So in the Philippines, we don't have 50 states, just like the US. So when you create something, you can't scale it up as big as the one in the US. And in China, it's almost as big as the US. So all of these Filipino startups are gunning for a startup that is similar to the ones in the US, to the ones in China. So I think you mentioned earlier that this island, is there, I think the message should be Southeast Asian, right?
Yeah, and you want something repeatable and scalable. But even just at the repeatable level, it's very hard. So the landscape in the Philippines is quite challenging. So one town may differ from the other, and so that's when I say looking at the market. When the startups want to grow, they shouldn't just look at the next geographical town unless there's they have to look at what is it like in this market and why was it successful? Then you need to look for the factors in similar markets, and they need to be able to scan those markets across the Philippines and even outside of the Philippines. So copying, I think, is not it's yeah, it's really being adaptable and really looking at the landscape to make your startup repeatable and scalable. Um, Guys like coins.ph just amaze me how Ron Hose and his team grew, and they're a small, relatively small company, and what they have achieved versus the bigger e-wallets who have larger financial backing. And I think it's amazing how he knows how to strategize across the different target markets.
Well, I think we can take a lot of lessons there because the key, the way the world is now, the market is global. Anything that you start here, because of the power of the internet and cell phones and all that, you can go global almost, fairly quickly, and there's no barriers in terms of your website or your platform being a global type of a business. There's so many payment platforms in which you can get paid in, and they've also got these blockchain things now. So when you start a company, I agree, you've got to have the idea of not just in this city or in this country, but you've got to think regional, and you've got to think global, because that's the way you're going to get the money, and you get paid in currencies which are fairly strong compared to ours. So I think that's the key to success for many of our startups.
You mentioned something about seeing lots of startups fail, and I think that's a good thing. Failure is something we need to think of not as shameful, but failure is something learning. The president of Union Bank, I really like what he said. You know, this digital revolution, even him as a leader of an organization, if he is to drive digital transformation, he said it has to be cultural transformation. We have to measure people differently. In the past, when someone fails, we look at them as shameful, they get moved to another job, they lose their job, or they get laterally transferred to something else. But we should recognize, he said, now, we should recognize that if a person fails, at least he's trying. He's trying a product and making it better and better and making sure there's traction even before we spent so much money, because in the past, that's how we would develop products. So I think that more people who fail and more people who are more, who look back and say what they should have or what they shouldn't have done makes will make our workforce even more intelligent, stronger, braver, and we need more leaders like that in our country.
Okay, I think those are really good answers. You want to have one more stab at it? Okay, just go for it.
I'm glad that you mentioned about failing, right? So my question is, do we have any kind of support for entrepreneurs, especially in the mental health? Because again, it's very hard. Like I had my fair share, so I couldn't sleep at night. You just pace the house back and forth. But the question is, normally, majority of the entrepreneurs, they're actually kind of depressed because no one really knows their battles. So where do you go to, right? So unless with idea space, definitely you can get a lot of support there. But in terms of the psychological, mental state of these people, how do we? Is there a movement towards that? You mentioned about the cultural shift, about failures and everything. But how about the mental state?
I think one of it is also culturally our education system trains us not to fail. You're penalized when you're failing a lot. And I don't know how this can be solved, but perhaps the principals and the teachers will need to understand that a little bit and encourage them to try. And if they fail, try again. It's okay to fail rather than hitting them too heavily for that.
Well, for Idea Space, okay, this is a pitch for Idea Space. Because we do a holistic approach, and we do have a resident psychotherapist. So that helps them because you need to prepare them for times when we're no longer around. So when we're no longer around, we emphasize community. It's very important. That's why we believe our program should be run as a cohort and not like a rolling incubator. It's a group. And we always emphasize that you have to watch out for each other and you have to help each other. And across our alumni, for batch 1 helping batch 3, batch 3 helping batch 6, I've seen them help each other and call each other. So it's very important for us to constantly build the community and for the entrepreneur to stay in touch with fellow entrepreneurs. I think it's very, I've seen them going through really low lows. I can't empathize enough with them. I mean, as much as a fellow entrepreneur. So we emphasize really community. Build your community of fellow entrepreneurs. It will help you through all those mental health challenges.
Yeah, well, I agree. I think you get a lot of support. The more you're with your fellow entrepreneurs, fellow startup founders, I mean, you get a lot of support from each other. Because the key thing here is that it's not a crowd thing, no? If one person succeeds, we all succeed. The more success stories we have here in the Philippines, it's going to lift everybody up. It's going to encourage more investors to invest in these companies, more people to start their companies. So the more of these success stories that we have, and the more that you hear about it, it's going to encourage the whole ecosystem.
Thanks for all the excellent answers, and I think those are very heartfelt, and that's really speaking from your experience, I think, interfacing the ecosystem. And I think just before we do a full wrap-up for the session, I'm going to do a quick plug on TechStorm. So TechStorm, we ourselves are also a startup. We're headquartered in Singapore, and we started the company about close to 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago. With one key mission is to be able to champion the stories of Asian entrepreneurs and champion the stories of Asian inventions, not just to Asia, but to a global marketplace and a global audience. Because we feel that the time to tell the Asian story is now, and the time to tell the stories of Asian tech ecosystem is also right now. So on this note, I'm going to close up the sessions, and I'm going to do a round of thanks again to all my esteemed panelists who've taken time to join us today. So again, thank you so much, Renee Butch Meili, President of Kubo, Willie Fu from Singapore, our tech influencer, Diane Eustachio, Executive Director of ID Space in Philippines. Thank you very much for joining us, and thanks for coming here today to join us as well. So I have a little goodie bag for everyone. You know, if you want to take photos of that I'm perfectly cool with that. So I'm going to start presenting the goodie bags, and I'm going to start from Butch, Willie, and then Diane. Okay? Thank you very much.